Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the July 15th, 2025 School Curriculum Assessment and Accountability Council. My name is Janabeth Francis, and I chair this remarkable group of people who are focused on improving the outcomes for all of our Kentucky students by drilling into curriculum assessment and accountability. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to Melissa Chandler, Program Consultant for KDE, who's going to do our roll call. Melissa.
Right. Thank you, Janabeth. So before I call roll, I'd like to provide some information for members about conducting meetings in a virtual setting. This virtual meeting must comply with the requirements of the Open Meetings Act. The public may view the meeting via the link that was provided in the agenda, and that is posted on our KDE website. SCAAC members, please ensure that your video is streaming and that you can be seen throughout the duration of the meeting. And additionally, you'll want to keep your microphones muted unless you're speaking, because all of our discussions do need to be broadcast to the public. So each time you do speak in the meeting, please unmute your mic, state your name, and take a short pause. That will just give our software time to recognize you. So we have some standard agenda items today. We won't need a roll call vote for those things, but I will have everyone vote by raising hands, stating, that you approve when we take minutes and things like that, when we approve minutes. So I will take additional minutes today, and those will be shared with the general public on the KDE website when they are available. So I'll go ahead and call roll. We need 9 members for a quorum. So when I call your name, just state your full name and indicate that you are present. Janabeth, I have a few folks that I know who weren't going to be here, so I'll kind of move past them quickly. Artavia Ackland cannot be with us today. So Deborah Atherton.
Deborah Atherton, present.
Okay. Carrie Ballinger.
Carrie Ballinger, present.
Okay. Houston Barber. Renee Boss could not be here today. Martha Emmons. And I believe I saw Martha here, but we can come back to her. Chuck Fletcher.
Chuck Fletcher is present.
Janabeth Francis.
Janabeth Francis, present.
Frank Hall. Leslie Jeffries.
Leslie Jeffries, present.
Brenda McGowan.
Brenda McGowan, here.
Jason Reeves.
Jason Reeves, present.
Allison Tammy. Josh Trosper. And Alan Young.
Alan Young, present.
Okay, so it looks like right now we have 8. We don't have quite a quorum yet, but if we have one more who joins, I will definitely let us know.
Okay, thank you, Melissa. So with that being stated, I'm going to skip item 3, which is the approved minutes, but I do want to tell everyone what's on the agenda. We are going to talk about Kentucky academic standards, vibrant learning experiences, and get some updates from assessment and accountability. So if we get our 9 members, we will go back to item 3. But at this time, I think I saw Commissioner Fletcher was on. I didn't know if you wanted to bring greetings, Commissioner Fletcher.
Thank you so much, Chair Francis. I appreciate that. And I do have a few updates I'll provide to the group. And since we did have, I want to give me a thumbs up if everybody can hear me. If I can see, great. Thank you so much. Again, July for me it's almost like for Christmas, because I feel like we're gearing back up, getting ready for the school year. Very exciting time. This time of year for me is so much fun. I remember it as a teacher, a principal, a superintendent, and now commissioner. So I do enjoy this time of getting ready to gear back up for the school year. Of course, for many of us on this call, and including our folks that work in the school districts, July is almost a full month of work. May get off to about July 4th, and after that we get back at it pretty hard. But I do want to give you a few updates from the commissioner and also from the department. And probably the biggest update is you probably saw, if you haven't, Kentucky is involved in a multi-state lawsuit currently. We entered into a lawsuit. When I say we, the governor actually entered into a lawsuit yesterday with 24 states and the District of Columbia concerning the title funds. Over the weekend, we started on Friday. We prepared a declaration of harm for the governor as support for his getting into this lawsuit. To give you a little bit of background, there's $87 million that's essentially being withheld at the federal level. This money was actually approved by Congress in the Continuing Appropriations Extension Act back in March, and it was actually signed by the president on March 15th. So, and as a matter of fact, one of the funds, we'd already received a preliminary appropriation of the amount as we went through. So again, we did supply essentially a declaration of harm to the governor, and the governor did enter into a multi-state lawsuit. In case you're wondering, as far as the title funds, it is Title I Part C, which is migrant education. So that's $7.9 million for the state. Title II Part A, which is supporting effective instruction, that's professional development. Well, so many of our districts also use this to supply possibly district resource teachers or maybe district learning coaches, but also to other professional development opportunities for teachers. That's $33.6 million for all districts. I think all 171 districts are impacted by that. Title III Part A is $5.7 million. Title 4A, which is, I think Title 3A is our English language learner funds. Title 4A is the student support and academic achievement, $20.3 million. And Title 4B is for those of you that have 21st century schools that have received the 21st century grant, that is approximately $19.4 million that's being withheld. So for a total of $87 million. So, that also impacts us at the state level too. We have some positions that are funded through that. We have positions that are, we also have other programs and opportunities that are funded with those. So all total, that's $87 million. So we're hoping to hear that, however quickly the court can move. It was filed in a court in Rhode Island, I do believe. So we did a press release. I think that's out this morning. I think Jennifer again is putting that out this morning to show our support. But again, we are very appreciative of the governor taking that on our behalf. So again, the title funds $87 million, and we are entered into a multi-state lawsuit over those funds. The second item, for any of you, I bet you can't go to the grocery store or to church or anything without somebody talking about Senate Bill 181. We do have a superintendent webcast today where we have taken questions from superintendents and from many others, and we've tried to answer those. We put them together into themes, into common questions, but we have 10 pages of guidance, I believe, that may be either published yesterday or today. But I'll be going over that with superintendents in the superintendent webcast today. A lot of questions we tried to answer to our best of our ability. We also conferred a lot with with the legislators across the river here to say, okay, this is our interpretation. We want to make sure that we're aligned. And also too, I talked with the Senate Education Committee liaison, and they are working on a language for a bill or how to amend this bill coming up in January. But until then, we have to handle things as we can. So we do have guidance that will be published if it hasn't been already by the end of the day, and it deals with Senate Bill 181. A third item too that I want to touch on just a little bit is House Bill 825 in 2024 actually required that KDE go through an audit. The audit team that was here did supply multiple noteworthy accomplishments by KDE, but they also had some good recommendations. And we're going to treat this as a learning opportunity for folks. And to let you know what all that encompassed in the audit, because we've gone through about 10 months, and the commissioner, I went through 7 individual interviews myself during this audit process. And that audit did cost to the tune of $1.2 million. And I think there's one more bill to come in just yet. And again, I'd like to talk to our legislators. Well, that wasn't an unfunded mandate. It was something that had to come out of our budget here at KDE. As far as what's required, there had to be, it wasn't limited to, but the overall areas were academic standards, statewide accountability and assessments. They had a lot of questions about the new accountability model, consolidated monitoring of districts and programs, diversity, equity, inclusion initiatives, exceptional children, preschool, model curriculum, state board oversight of the commissioner, area technology centers, interscholastic athletics, staffing and support among EPSB, community education programs and services, and the performance of the Commissioner of Okay, it went.
Good morning, Commissioner. I can currently hear you. I just want to make sure I can see you.
Okay, can anyone else? It says my mic has been disabled.
I
We
see.
can hear you and see you.
Yes, and I've got you labeled as a presenter.
Okay, so can everyone on the call, I assume, can hear me too?
Yes, if we could just have one person verify to confirm. Oh, there we go. Perfect. So sorry for the
great.
disruption there.
Not a problem, not a problem. But again, there's various areas. I won't go through those again, but as far as the audit, I do encourage you, if you have the opportunity to read through that audit, it's in your free time. It is over 500 pages long, but it's good to look at some of the comments as you go through. There's a lot of data in there. There's a lot of other recommendations as we go through. But again, we're going to use this as a learning opportunity and move forward because there are some really good suggestions and recommendations in there. The last thing I'll talk a little bit about, I won't steal any of Dr. Stafford's thunder. And again, this is Dr. Stafford's first meeting as Associate Commissioner. So I would like for everyone just to, if you could give her a round of applause on one of our reactions, that'd be great. But again, welcome to Dr. Stafford as our new Associate Commissioner in the Office of Assessment and Accountability. But I will tell you where we are in the accountability model. We have, when I say we, Dr. Stafford and I, and also Dr. Kreisman from Fleming County and Dr. Bacon from Bullitt County, we presented in front of the Interim Joint Committee on Education on June 3rd about the new accountability model. And honestly, it was a great set of questions. As a matter of fact, there were several legislators that talked about local accountability in one of their districts and how they would love to see this type of model spread throughout the Commonwealth. So it was refreshing to sit in a IJCE meeting and have legislators almost testify for you. So that was really good. So that was enjoyable. And right now, Brian Perry, Dr. Perry, and I, who is our government liaison, we are meeting with individual lawmakers to talk about where we are in this process and what exactly the model looks like to try to answer some individual questions. So a lot of momentum with our new accountability model. Looking forward to where we go into. What we go into is when it comes into January. So those are four just updates, and I'll turn it back over to our chair. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Well, thank you as always for stopping in, and I am excited to hear about all the work going on at KDE, and the audit looked fascinating, and most encouraged that Kentucky joined with some other states in the multi-state lawsuit. So everyone should keep abreast of the press releases. The Kentucky Department of Education does a great job sending those out. And you can visit their website if you're not getting all of those and sign up for those newsletters and various things. So we do have quorum right now. So Melissa, I think it's okay if we jump back up. We have 2 sets of minutes to approve. We'll do them separately. The first one was from our March meeting. SCAAC members, you can see these in your folder. So if I could get a motion to approve the March minutes.
Motion to approve the March minutes.
And is there a second?
Second, Carrie Ballinger.
Okay, all in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, and now we had a special called May meeting to discuss the new framework and to give our recommendation for it. And so we do have minutes from a May 2025 meeting. So again, if I could get a motion to approve those minutes.
Debbie Atherton, motion to approve the minutes from the special meeting in May.
Thank you, Debbie. And a second?
Jason Reeves, approval, motion for second approval.
Thank you, Mr. Reeves. All in favor, raise your hand. And those minutes have been approved. So we're going to turn the meeting over to Crystal Rollin, who is with the Office of Teaching and Learning. She serves as the director. We're going to get an update on all the standards. So Crystal?
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. It is an exciting time for standards for Kentucky. I want to give just some background information before we go into sort of the timeline and where we are. So our standards review process is outlined in KRS 158.6453. It established the process as well as the cadence for the review of each of our content areas. So within law, every 6 years, each of our content area standards are set to be reviewed for revisions and updates that are needed. As part of the schedule, we update the standards review timeline for each of our content areas. We try to update that every summer just to make sure that what's here is reflective of where we are. On this timeline, you'll see each of the content areas, when they are set to begin review, when they'll go into the legislative process, when they should be implemented in classrooms, as well as when they would be operationalized on the state assessment as well. And it's important to note that those future-facing ones, as far as legislative process and classroom implementation and assessment, are all tentative. There are many things that could impact that timeline, but we do try to update this each year just so that you're operating from like our goal and the freshest timeline possible with what we have here. So there are academic standards. There's also other areas. You'll see on this screen that there's technology standards, media standards that will be updated in the coming year, as well as mathematics. I do want to revisit the standards and assessment review process because that's helpful information, I believe, when we talk about timeline and where we are. It starts with an application that goes out for teachers to serve on the committees that work on the standards. So there are 3 advisory panels, one for elementary, one for middle, one for high school, and each of those has 6 classroom teachers that are teaching the content area. There's representatives from higher education, as well as consultants from business and communities that depend on that area of study in their industry. We also have one review committee, and that covers all the grade levels. So we have representatives from elementary, middle school, and high school. We have representatives from higher ed, as well as business and community consultants on that panel as well. While we're in that selection process, the current academic standards will go out for public comment by a third party for a 30-day public comment period. We bring that, all of that feedback from the public is provided to the advisory panel, along with other state standards and research in their content area, and they make recommended changes to the standards. Those recommendations, along with the research and the public comment, go to the review committee, and they can approve those recommendations and carry them forward, or they can send it back to the advisory panel with more consideration. So they're really looking at the vertical alignment and holistically at the changes that are being recommended. So that's really an iterative process between those 2 committees. Once they have the recommended changes ready to move forward, those go out for another 30-day public comment period. And during that time, specifically for mathematics, reading and writing, science and social studies, the assessment blueprint also goes out for public comment for 30 days. And so that's not the assessment itself per se, but it is the blueprint that is used to design the assessment. So it'll have like the subdomains in the content and the percentage of items that would fall in each of those. And that serves as sort of the framework for the assessment moving forward. So once all of that feedback is collected, the advisory panels come back together to review that second round of feedback and make any final recommended changes. The review committee looks at that and approves and decides when it's ready to move forward. Then it begins the legislative and approval process. So it'll go before the Interim Joint Committee for Education. They're really looking at the feedback that was received and how the committee responded to that. It goes before a committee called the Standards and Assessment Process Review Committee, and that committee is set forth in the same statute that KRS 158.6453, and they're looking at the process and law and what was carried out to see if that was sufficient for the law. So they'll approve that, and then it goes forward to the Kentucky Board of Education for final approval, and it begins that regulatory change process. I do want to say, if you have teachers that you have released for this process, I want to say thank you personally for that. They are so important to this process. They are in the classrooms each and every day with students, and they are using standards. And so I think it's very critical that they are the ones that are taking the lead and being the voice for recommended changes moving forward. But we do recognize it's so difficult to have teachers out of your buildings. And so we appreciate if you've collaborated and worked with your educators to be a part of the process. We really appreciate your support. And I will say the teachers we've had be a part of it have talked about what fantastic professional learning it is, that they're able to network with other passionate educators from across the state and really have deep conversations about what our standards mean. And so they come away with like a deep knowledge of their standards. And I hope that you find that as a benefit to your district and your schools as well, for those that have been a part of the process. So I told you it's a busy year for standards. And so that 6-year schedule, we have 3 content areas that were due for review. And those are reading and writing, social studies, and mathematics. And so we have spaced those out. And so it should space out the classroom implementation years as we move on down the timeline, and also allow us to really focus on each content area. So multiple reasons to kind of space those out across the year. The CASPER reading and writing began in January. Social studies began their review in April, and mathematics is set to begin in the fall. So I won't have an update on timeline for mathematics because we are beginning to plan for that process to begin in the fall. So for reading and writing, I have the timeline there on the screen. I think the important thing to note there is that we are looking to bring the draft reading and writing standards before the Board of Education in October. And so they are on the agenda for the Interim Joint Committee for Education, August the 18th. For social studies, they're about midway through the process. So they have draft recommended changes, and those are currently open. So that survey for folks to kind of weigh in on those recommended changes to the social studies standards is currently open. And the assessment blueprint survey is also open for feedback. These committees will come back together in September to review the public comment and make their final recommendations of those documents. And then I did want to share the Kentucky Academic Standards for Health Education and Physical Education. Those were recently approved by the Kentucky Board of Education in June. And so we looked for those to be implemented in classrooms in the 26-27 school year. And I did want to share the regulations that amends those standards. So those are on the screen here for your reference. I will note with health and physical education, they are in section 18 of the statute, which doesn't require the assessment blueprint and some of the other committee approvals that are required for the other content areas. And so that sort of shortened process is there on the screen for your reference as well. But they are written as well with advisory panels, classroom teachers, all of that is consistent with what I had shared previously. For health and physical education specifically, there was regional representation across Kentucky, and the committees included a mix of teachers from health education and also teachers from physical education. So really the writers envisioned academic standards for health and physical education that includes space for sustained opportunities for Kentucky students of all abilities, backgrounds, and grade levels to develop lifelong health and physical literacy. So that was really their guiding charge throughout the process. From the feedback, they really wanted to have clear, precise language for their standards. They wanted standards that were developmentally appropriate and also progressed across grade levels, aligned with research, and should allow teachers autonomy while still providing clarity for new teachers. So we had a wide range of public comment, public feedback on the health education and physical education standards. As you can see, they're on the screen. And really what we saw was a lot of people had agreement with the standards, and they liked being aligned to national standards. So that was something they wanted to see carried forward. And so when the draft went out, we had over 95% of respondents selected to accept those physical education standards as is, and over 88% for the health education for those recommended changes. So the revision highlights are here on the screen. So they updated the writer's vision statement, and they also aligned the standards to the anchor standards for the national standards. And so those were recently updated by Shape America. And so those were pulled in as anchor standards. And then the layout was redesigned to support teacher and stakeholder clarity and ease of navigation, and each grade band included the anchor standards rationale to support teacher clarity and the performance indicator in a grade banded view. So this is an example of what a standard looks like in the new documents. And so at the top is the standard, underneath is the rationale, which provides more information of what's expected in the standard. And then underneath are performance indicators by grade band. And so they show by the end of this grade band, this is what students should be able to do to support them in achieving that anchor standard at the top. And so the coding is there for you. The first number is the standard, the middle number is the last grade in the progression band, and then the performance indicator is at the end. So the health education anchor standards encompass these 8 anchor standards here, which provide cognitive content to promote healthy lifestyles through childhood, adolescence, and into adulthood. And these standards are student focused and describe a health literate student. So these are consistent across the grade bands, where the performance indicators are specific to what students will be learning to do. They foster opportunities for students to develop many of the competencies of our model portrait of a learner, including critical thinker, effective communicator, empowered learner, and productive collaborator. And they're based on the grade level performance indicators that promote health enhancing behaviors and disease prevention. Each of these anchor standards are repeated across each grade band with the grade band specific performance indicators. And the color coding shown here is used throughout the Kentucky Academic Standards for Health Education document. For physical education, similarly, there are 4 anchor standards, and these provide cognitive content to develop and maintain physically active lifestyle throughout childhood, adolescence, and into adulthood. And these are based on grade band performance indicators that focus on building physical competence, motivation, confidence, and knowledge. They focus on the well-being of the whole person and their physical literacy journey, including psychomotor, cognitive, social, and affective learning domains. These 4 anchor standards communicate the broader learning of performance indicators that promote and produce physically literate students in all grade levels. And again, these goals support many competencies of portrait of a learner similar to health education, as they promote relevant and developmentally appropriate critical thinking about lifelong movement and wellness, as well as respectful behaviors towards self, others, and equipment. And so I think the way that they're designed should be helpful for district PLCs as folks come together, because they'll have those consistent anchor standards that they're all working towards, with the differences being within their performance indicators for their grade bands. So if you have any questions for me, I'm glad to answer those now, or as always, you can reach out to me as you have questions moving forward as well.
Mr. Young, Alan, you have a question?
Yes, first of all, thank you for your very thorough and clear presentation. It helped me just see a bigger overarching picture of how all of the process works. And so I appreciate that. I also heard several times you mention the connections that are certainly implicitly there with regard to competencies and portrait of a learner. And I appreciate that too. But my question is about where we might be, if we're anywhere at all, at being more practically explicit about the connection of the competencies that are like within our portrait of a learner and how those get connected to standards so that standards have an overarching frame around the learner. Like how do the different times when I say critical thinking, that may be through all of our different subject area standards pieces and so forth. I say it mostly because I know from a teacher's perspective and from a student's perspective, as you focus on the granularity of any particular standard, it's hard to think about how does that connect to the competency or the person. And I think it's really means a lot of people get overwhelmed by all the different standards, but it both from a teacher or a student's perspective, it's hard to say how does science relate to social studies, relate to PE and all the different standards. And I think we have a real way forward with our portrait of a learner competencies being the overarching thing. And I didn't know when I saw 2.5.7 and the clarity of how that works in the standards pieces, how there could maybe be a way of more explicitly letting our teachers and our students know without overwhelming them, but in fact, maybe making it more coherent about how those can connect to each other and connect to the competencies. So we don't just feel like, well, now we're doing standards. Now we're doing portrait of a learner. Now we're, and like they're all different pieces and parts versus a whole. So I know that was a kind of a comment question, but kind of where are we or might we be in that area?
Hey, Crystal, if you don't care, I'll jump in and say, Alan, you basically outlined our meeting for the day. So I think what we're getting ready to hear from Robert is about vibrant learning. And then we'll hear from Jennifer all about the assessment and accountability. To me, this is where local accountability will come together. It is an opportunity for districts to say, we have our portrait of a learning competencies. We also have these standards. How do I, in a vibrant learning experience, so think of it as a triangle, how do I, in this vibrant and learning experience, allow students to really shine in one of the portrait of a learner competencies and to hit some of the mastery and the standards? And so I think today's whole meeting is about us starting to have conversations like you want, where we're saying, how do we bring this all together for educators and not make it more challenging or make them separate ideas going on?
It's my Amber Alert going off. I don't know
Everybody got it. I knew when mine went off, I was like, I'm sure I'm not the only one. Crystal,
Wow.
Go ahead and jump in.
Absolutely. I appreciate that question because I think that is really where we're focusing as an agency right now is those collaborative conversations with our Division of Innovation. So we believe our standards at the highest level do create vibrant learning when implemented them as designed. When we get down at a very granular standard level, we can sometimes miss those opportunities for students to engage as communicators and things like that. So I think about like with mathematics, we have the student math practices that really engage them as communicators and problem solvers. And there's so many rich opportunities within those practices that lift up opportunities to build those competencies for students. And so I think those opportunities are there. We have really been focusing on how can we illuminate that for educators. So not just tell what it's supposed to be, but give very tangible evidence of that, whether it's video recordings or specific things that we can point to that say, here's all the beautiful ways that standards support developing those competencies and being very explicit with that as you're kind of discussing. And so those are things that we're continuing to look for opportunities to do. We're really kind of trying to push into opportunities to look into classrooms for those teachers that are excited to share their practice with us and share that with other educators across the state. And certainly our collaborations with Division of Innovation as we make sure our guidance is explicit in that space.
Well, I appreciate all of the comments, and I had looked, of course, at the meeting today, and I did think it was all about that. But as we do it kind of as three separate pieces for our own clarity, I understand. I know that, at least for me, like back in 2014 or so, the model curriculum framework from the state gave an idea of how to do some coherent work in that regard. And I understand a lot of this will be designed, and it'll be a good thing that it will be coming on the local level. But I do think that locally, some people need to see at least some examples and some support and permissions, I think, in some respects, because we for years have separated these kinds of things as they've emerged versus seeing them together. But thank you for all that. I look forward to the rest of the meeting today, and I appreciate all the work.
Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Other questions for Crystal? So the big thing to do is jump in and give some feedback on the social studies standards if you haven't. And if you're in the district, remember that the visual and performing arts standards are live now this 25-26 school year. We've been working on them, and we love the timeline to get them ready. So we feel very confident when they do become active in a school year. And if you had paid attention to the new financial literacy, Crystal, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's part of the practical living standards. And so that new financial literacy course for high school students, the standards are there. They're just in the revision process. Is that correct?
So that's with our Office of OCTE. So that's separate from our
Okay.
Physical education and health education standards. But I can check in on that and get back with you.
I'm pretty certain that the practical living career studies includes that financial literacy piece.
Yes. Yes.
So, and I think your chart had them in the legislative review process. So
That is correct.
okay. Other questions for Crystal? Well, as always, Crystal, we thank you for joining us, and we appreciate you coming in. And Alan, as promised, we did do these to make it easier to separate them, but we're now going to have Robert Meacham share with us about vibrant learning. This was a request because we keep hearing the term vibrant learning in all the accountability piece. And so we're trying to build a really cohesive understanding of that. So I'm going to turn things over to Robert.
Good morning, everybody. I was sitting here just chomping at the bit, and Chair Francis hit it right. She said, "Just hold on, it's coming," because I think I have some of the answers to Alan's questions. We're really excited in the Division of Innovation to be working, like Crystal said, hand in hand with OTL and our Office of Assessment Accountability as well, with Dr. Stafford's group, especially around the CGSA grant has funded actually to the question of who's doing this work and getting this information out. That's my team, our regional innovation specialists. We've got 4 regional innovation specialists and that's not many, but we're hoping, kind of referencing the audit actually that Dr. Fletcher mentioned. The audit did kind of highlight the importance of the work that we were doing on the implementation of the United We Learn focus, and so we're excited to hopefully continue to grow our work, especially around expanding, just improving student experience through vibrant learning experiences. So one of the first things we always do, and we do this in every community that we go in across the state. I'll be doing it tomorrow with teachers in Clark County, and we really anchor what vibrant learning is to the United We Learn Council's definition of vibrant learning. And that quote at the top actually comes from a cool council member who, when they read it, they said it just kind of feels like it's learning that matters to students, and that's encapsulated in a nutshell exactly what vibrant learning is. But you see through this, there are some highlighted portions from this. From the definition that really highlight what vibrant learning is, and kind of puts it into a frame and kind of shows where it connects to the standards. That it's relevant and authentic, but also it was really important that next portion about being a joyful learning opportunity. Some people might think that that language has a little bit too much fluff, but I tell you, in the creation of this definition, that that word continued to hold fast. So joyful learning opportunities is something that that we want to create, and it is resonating in the field with all of our presentations that we do. We're also talking about vibrant learning that honors students' cultural wealth, their gifts and their interests, a really personalization of the learning experience, and then also the application and knowledge application of their knowledge and skills that they've built is an important piece that shows that that's part of that innovative assessment thing that our students can actually apply the knowledge and skills. So we're gonna today we're gonna look at this is kind of a non-exhaustive list of the things that we're seeing across Kentucky, real life examples of the these things are not new things. They're happening in pockets. You'll see them at a fantastic really motivated middle school science classroom that's doing some of these things, and then you'll see it district wide in places at many I was kind of looking through the people list, and I was like, okay, there's a lot of the districts that we are working in currently with our regional innovation specialists in the Division of Innovation that are working in your districts that and your districts are doing a lot of these things, whether it's student-led conferences, whether it's project-based learning, whether it's those work-based learning opportunities. There's just so many different opportunities that really encompass what vibrant learning actually looks like across the Commonwealth. So today, what I wanted to do was, and this is something that we've been doing, is highlighting different examples of what vibrant learning is, and so we've got their vibrant learning experiences that encapsulate those 6 areas of vibrant learning that were kind of highlighted in the definition. And so the first teacher we're going to look at comes from Fayette County, Kathy Salmons, Taste Creek High School. She doesn't just, students don't just learn science. They apply it directly to real life challenges affecting their own community. So Kathy is actually a part of our Kentucky Innovative Teacher Fellowship. That is a fellowship usually between 10 and 12 teachers that apply for the fellowship. That's led by Dr. Rob Collins out of our office here. So her students explore sustainability through rigorous scientific inquiry aligned with the standards, but then they also partner with their community through Live Green Lex. Students investigate authentic environmental issues. They critically analyze data, and then they for the purpose of coming up with evidence-based solutions. And then they have an opportunity to produce a personalized product that really gets to the point of them actually being a critical thinker. It also shows part of their competencies in how they are engaged citizens, and then it also shows just that the students have future leadership opportunities within their community, and so the learning makes it throughout this these opportunities. It's making the learning sticky, and it's making it's the learning that matters to the student. That's just one example of those relevant and authentic learning opportunities. So the next example comes out of Shelby County, Mormon Middle School. The educator there is Justin Gadd, and we have this example is catching fire around the state. There we've had multiple professional learning opportunities with some of our folks and some of the folks out of our co-op trainers out of OVEC. And what Justin does is he leverages his personal passion for Dungeons and Dragons, which is a tabletop role-playing game if you're not familiar, and what he's doing is he's fostering a deeper learning experience, particularly around historical and literary content. Through those RPG scenarios, students practice essential real-world skills that align closely with the graduate competencies identified in Shelby County. They've been doing their portrait work and their competencies with their with their defenses of learning for a while. So this is just one more way that they can show evidence that they are, working as a collaborative team and critical thinking. But there's just there's some excitement about adapting games and gamifying content and standards to make it more accessible and just enhancing the just understanding of those standards and the outcomes of the content that the teachers are teaching. The next example comes out of Bardstown Independent. Melissa Kaiser, she creates these vibrant learning opportunities by connecting science learning to real world audience and experiences. Our students explore a topic of human impacts on Earth systems and space from those standards. And they are looking at imagining life on the International Space Station, but then they also have an exhibition night where students, they select a favorite artifact from the unit, whether it's a writing piece or a project or a visual representation, and they share with their community members or especially their parents who are invited to come to that exhibition night. This is something that she takes it one step further, and she makes sure that she increases parent engagement by involving the family in a meaningful way by giving them a kind of cueing questions. So because some parents are uncomfortable maybe being in that and how to guide their student with those guiding questions. And so she's doing a good job of teaching the parents at the same time of how to ask really deep questions to further that understanding of those students. Next example is out of Rowan County. And in Rowan County, we look at Lindsey Johnson at the high school there. Their Root Deep Grow Tall is a unit that they powerfully combine local history, civic engagement, and creative expression. They connect students deeply to the community in Moorhead. They interact with community leaders from right there from the university at Moorhead, but they also, they really engage with historical documents from their local context, and they creatively look at history as a living and deeply connected, context to their personal identity and how they have responsibility within their community. They do part of Lindsay's unit is really focused on personalized products, where they get to exemplify their learning and show an example through various outcomes or various outlets. They can choose podcasting, or they can choose just written word, spoken word. They can use all kinds of personalized products to show their mastery of that unit. The next example is from right here in Frankfurt Independent. Dana Newland, she has a program called Food Prints, and it immerses her students in agriculture, connecting them to food sources. Right here in Frankfurt Independent is what is commonly known as a food desert, and they don't have, especially with a little local market that was really close to their school went out of business, and so there's just not much. And so seeing that as an opportunity to grow a student's understanding of how food, basically how farm to table works. So she's reinforcing core academic standards through practical real world applications. And so the parents of these students have said that they would not touch a green vegetable until they grew a green vegetable, and then all of a sudden it became real. And they also had so much excitement from seeing like the lettuce that they grew was being offered in their cafeteria, and that's a really cool connection to, again, taking the standards. So instead of farm to table, maybe taking it standards to table as well. So the last example, really excited to show this example. This is a project out of Marshall County Middle School, and Kelly Locker. They following the tornadoes in 2021 down in Western Kentucky. She saw an opportunity for students to use literacy, the literacy standards, to create authentic, meaningful expression. Students were they weren't just writing to meet the standard, they were using it as an opportunity to heal from traumatic experiences. And so they were honoring their community. They were engaged, and part of this is the engagement in civil discourse, because the students are, they already have presented the book to Governor Bashir, and now he has invited those students to share their book, which is, it says coming soon on the picture. It is now available for purchase out of the rubble, and it's multiple different. It's everything from poetry to song lyrics to just open, just kind of reflective essays, and it's really awesome to see a teacher take something that is maybe potentially locally destructive and turn it into something that is healing and also reflects kind of mastery through purpose. And that is, it isn't just a book, it's a living example of vibrant learning. These are students using the context that they had to go through to make it matter. And that's what's really exciting about the work that we're doing. And so before I open up to questions, just to kind of hit on to kind of answer how we're implementing these things. Our regional innovation specialists, over the next 2 weeks, in fact, tomorrow in Clark County, on Thursday in Laurel County, and then next week in Hopkins and Nelson County are presenting Vibrant Learning Collaboratives. These are teachers that are bringing examples just like this to regional locations, so that other teachers can come and see what this is all about. And they're connecting the work of mastery and the work of their standards, and they're showing how they are making it matter. We're really excited to continue to work with the offices across KDE to make sure that we are presenting a coordinated front around vibrant learning, and it's really taking root. So we're really excited about it. So with that, I'll open it up to questions.
Any questions or comments? Martha?
These are so exciting to me as a member of the community, because I think that these are some of the most relevant, valuable learning opportunities that I've seen really internalized as a part of the state curriculum. So that's wonderful. It's very exciting. The Moorhead, Round County, I was wondering what class curriculum that came from, whether it was history or literature or language. And I realized it's probably more than one, but I wondered about the teacher who taught that, because I didn't see that in the presentation.
Yeah, it is. So Lindsay Johnson, it is a history. She's a history teacher, but Brown County is they do an amazing job with project-based learning, and so they do a lot of their planning interdisciplinary. So you've got kind of cross disciplinary PLCs that will meet to plan these project-based learning. So it is and that's an important thing. That's not just happening in Rowan County. That's what I love about this. These are snapshots. I could show you a similar example from Fleming County, and I can show you a similar example from Spencer County, and so there's a lot of those they're seeing the opportunity that a vibrant learning experience can meet the needs of standards across those content areas.
Sure. And I know that it goes on in many places even before it became approved. But
yes.
I was wondering, in high school, that would be an American history class or a citizenship class, or I was just trying to plug it into my knowledge of what your student would be signed up for in a high school class. I understand in elementary and middle school how it meshes more, but it seems like it would be a little harder in high school.
Yeah, it could align in the government and economics curriculum. It can align in the U.S. history curriculum. It could also align in a human geography.
Sure, I understand that it could. What I'm asking is which ones did it?
I'm not sure exactly which course
okay.
she was teaching with that. I know she teaches. I know Lindsay teaches across the spectrum of the social studies. So I'm not sure exactly which course she was teaching it out of.
Okay, thank you.
Brenda, you have your hand up.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Some of you know that I've been really concerned with the whole concept, or maybe the terminology, vibrant learning experience. My concern comes from, is there a common understanding and of those terms? I hope we haven't taken common noun and associated adjectives and turned them into proper nouns with associated adjectives, and not all agree on exactly what we're talking about. So I do appreciate today's agenda getting us toward that. But as a lay person on this committee, I've got to say, we have to bring the public along with us. We've got to start educating the public as to what terms we're talking about, as to how these come together. If you look back since over the past 30 years or so in education in Kentucky, a lot of our initiatives have failed, not because of the quality of the initiative, but because of the misunderstanding of the public as to what education was trying to do, how we were trying to educate their students. So please, as you think about what are we talking about with vibrant learning experiences, coming together with an education common understanding, or an educator's common understanding, and then spreading what that means out into the community. They don't exist on the jargon that, as a former educator, I existed on. They exist on everyday experiences. Until we can take it to that piece with the public, this too will have a hard time being successful.
Thank you, Brenda. Other comments or questions for Robert? Robert, I'm going to jump in and, Alan, go ahead. I see your hand up.
I was waiting because I didn't want to take the space up. So I thought everyone was done. But if you want to go first, Jan Beth, you can.
Go ahead, Alan.
Okay. So first of all, the examples that you give, I know are powerful. They're powerful for the learners and for the educators to keep them engaged and growing. And autonomy is one thing, but people don't understand the craft of being an educator and being involved and always tweaking and getting something new and being all that is so very important to keep your educators involved. But I want to kind of piggyback on what I had said before, and also kind of what Brenda has brought up as well, just on the need not only for these powerful examples, which I think in communities can have very, very important places where they can start to get a sense of these things together. In a student-led conference or in a learning exhibition, we can start to get a feel like, I don't know what it is exactly, but I know when I see it, kind of thing. Everybody kind of has that. So I think those are really important for the authenticity. But I think Brenda brings up something that is very real, because learning that matters to every student every day is not vibrant. And the point is, how do we get it more that way? And how do we get students, teachers, administrators in particular, and also the community, wrapping their head around a different conception when they mostly have been around standards and test scores, I think is really important. So that's why I push for the learner center frames, the competency-based, including standards. But if you just start with standards and tests, it's really hard to see these things as just extra things. And Brenda is right. Things have failed before, or at least not reached their aspirations, because people can't see kind of the whole. They just see some bits and pieces and parts. and they want it for their kids, but they don't understand the systems of it. So I just urge us as we're doing this to keep growing the grassroots up. That's important. But for the state and for our group to keep wrestling with this vernacular problem that Brenda's talking about, as well as the kind of holistic nature of how do you get someone to understand something that's got so many moving parts and seems complex. But I think we can simplify this if it really is about the learner and their parts, their competencies. And within those parts, there are standards in each one of these that we have to have. So there's a grain size part that I think that we could be able to make this simpler to communicate out from, so that communities all get this, and our administrators and our teachers and our students. But thank you for all you're doing, because those are very powerful examples. And I just love this morning so far because I've seen such rich things. But as Brenda was saying, we really have to get it out there as a whole, because it's too big if I only see the tail as the elephant, or the trunk as the elephant, or the other. I don't realize it's an elephant.
Okay, Robert, I'm going to jump in and give you some advice from a career district assessment coordinator. So, and this is kind of connecting to our next topic, looking at kind of where we are with assessment and accountability. I understand Vibrant Learning has lived in a design space. I get it. You've been very much in the design space. Let's see what we do when we open up these opportunities. Let's make learning matter to students. But I think as we get closer to seeing Vibrant Learning become part of accountability, to echo Brenda and Alan, we almost need guardrails that provide some of the language for how this all connects. And so as you start talking with community members, as we start making this part of our accountability system, I think it's time that there be a few guardrails put around the design space that you've been in that really talk about, when one of the activities we did in our district was I asked my teaching and learning team to tell me an experience from their learning, K-12, that they considered vibrant. And some of those experiences were memorable, but they showed no mastery of standard. And so is that a guardrail? Does the vibrant learning need to connect to a standard? We have a lot of people on this committee, myself included, that want to see Portrait of a Learner come together and be a part of this. So where does the vibrant learning experience and the Portrait of a Learning experience come together? On some of your slides, you all clearly stated that, and you could see it was places like Shelby County that are a little further developed in their competencies. I guess my advice to your group in the Division of Innovation is it's probably time to start putting some of those guardrails around, or it will be really hard if a district goes way too far in one direction. And when it comes time for us to say, somehow we have to take this and count it as part of accountability, if they're too far off. And so the other thing at the end of the day, I think we still have to talk about how are we measuring learning with these vibrant experiences, and how are we increasing student engagement and agency. In the age of agency, what does that mean? And what does that mean in kindergarten? And what does it mean in second? What we don't want is your zip code to determine the quality of the vibrant learning experiences you experience in Kentucky. And with vibrant learning being part of a local accountability, there's a real likelihood that not only is it going to be your zip code, but it's going to be what fifth grade teacher you got. Like, I think how leadership in schools kind of leads this effort to ensure equity for all students is going to be really challenging. So those are just some of my comments to you. I really think it's time to start putting those guardrails around, maybe after your summer of kind of like doing one more big round of here's what you all can think, here's how you can dream. But if we don't get guardrails soon, I don't see how this will be a viable part of the accountability system moving forward.
So just to hop back in and let you all know, like vibrant learning is just one of the portions that our folks are actually instructing out in the field. had a regional innovation specialist in Letcher County yesterday, leading a community meeting that they are doing their portrait of a learner build, and so that's the foundation of what we do. We start there. We make sure that the portrait competencies are defined by the community with a vast stakeholder group from that local context. So they define what the competencies and what those potentially what those outcomes and indicators for those competencies look like. And then like the next step is, okay, how do we get at those competencies? Well, we get at those competencies through vibrant learning experiences. And so yes, I to echo, I'm just sitting here nodding because I was like, you're speaking it, but we're actively engaged in doing exactly that. Is letting the guardrails are things that I know Dr. Stafford will actually I'm sure talk about in the next next with the update from Framework 4.0, and that's an important thing that we are that we're wrestling with around vibrant learning, because we want the local to stay local and define what their local context is, but we do need to continue to find quality local measures that can really show us what quality looks like. So thank you all so much.
Yeah, Alan mentioned this earlier, but years ago when we started talking about curriculum in a different way in Kentucky, the teaching and learning side of KDE came out with the model curriculum framework. And so I guess I feel like as we continue to roll in, that it's probably time for there to be some kind of model framework around vibrant learning that districts can use as a starting point. And in that model framework, I am glad to see that you all are focusing in on how does that stay local and how do we amplify the localization of this experience. So thank you, Robert, for coming. And I'm sure this won't be the first time we have you. We will keep you on the docket because it's a quickly changing topic.
Thank you so much.
Everybody's alarm went off again, but that was not the sign that you were done, Robert. So if you have anything else, we'll let you go. But Jennifer, I see you popped on, so I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Jennifer, who's got an announcement about a new colleague that has been on these meetings, but maybe not speaking to us. So Jennifer, I won't steal the show from you.
That's right. Thank you, Jana Beth, and thanks to Robert and Crystal for bringing their expertise and their updates today. I do want to introduce Shara Savage as our new director in the Division of Assessment and Accountability Support. We have so many people here in the Office of Assessment and Accountability, such quality people that we're changing roles, we're changing chairs. With the retirement of our longtime Associate Commissioner, Rhonda Sims. She left in June 30th, and I was appointed as the Associate Commissioner to take her place on July 1st. And so with that, it left the Division of Assessment Accountability Support vacancy, and Shara Savage, who has been with KDE since 2019. She came in as a program consultant and was promoted to a manager's position when Helen Jones got promoted out of that position, and Shara now serves as the director. So Shara has more to share with us upcoming, but she is committed to the support and providing the customer service that our division generally gives to our stakeholders, our district assessment coordinators, and all of our stakeholders across the Commonwealth. So we're glad that we've got quality people within our office to take different roles. We've also had some turnover within our data division. Mike Prater has been promoted into the program manager's position, and David Curd is at the education program manager's position as well. So we've got turnover that's happening, but it's all good, and we're happy for the fact that there was retirements and that created those opportunities for those moves. Cheryl will be here in just a bit to talk about the timeline for reporting for this year. But I do want to start with the Kentucky United We Learn Council update. We've had lots of conversation this morning, and it's been great conversation because that portrait of a learner really is that locally developed, that community vision that the community, the educators and other stakeholders come together that outlines those essential skills, that those knowledge and those dispositions that they believe that are important to graduate with, that every student needs to be able to possess, to thrive in this world that we live in that is unknown. So it's not a one size that fits all mandate from Kentucky. The Kentucky Board of Education created a portrait of a learner that districts could model, but it's not the one that everybody has to adopt. But it includes a focus on those durable skills and those competencies that prepare students to be successful citizens, successful collaborator, communicator, once they graduate. So whether a student is exiting elementary school, whether they're exiting high school, graduating, that portrait of a learner offers that clear vision for that vision of readiness that will span throughout their lives and throughout their academic career or their career pathways. So as we've mentioned, there are opportunities for vibrant learning experiences that really brings the standards to life. And so that's what I appreciate with Robert and the examples that he brought, was that it was the foundation of the discussion that Crystal had earlier, because those standards, those Kentucky academic standards, are the foundation of what that academic mastery looks like. And so those vibrant learning experiences really brings those standards to life for the students. So they're engaging in joyful experiences based on those rigorous Kentucky academic standards. And so it all is coming together in this vision of the Kentucky United We Learn. Now, I've talked several times with the School Curriculum Assessment Accountability Council about where we are with the framework. We had an emergency meeting, and you just approved the minutes to talk about the change from 3.0 to 4.0 in the framework. And so that 4.0 was approved by the Kentucky Board of Education and moved to the Kentucky United We Learn Council. And we've now moved into what we're calling the advocacy phase. So the advocacy phase, now that we have that model framework 4.0, that's been approved by the Kentucky United We Learn Council. It's been approved by the board. It went through discussions again with you all, as well as the local superintendent advisory council. It's now time to move that forward into discussions with a broader population and including our General Assembly. Our Kentucky United We Learn Council is engaging in these conversations, and we're asking them to be champions of the work. And so these champions, and you can see here on the slide on your screen, the champions are from across multiple stakeholders, and they have various interests and represent various groups. And so this moonshot to build a prosperous Kentucky, we will launch an accountability system that is both meaningful and useful to all learners. We've asked people if they want to promote and engage in this conversation. So these champions are people who have volunteered to be part of this movement. It's a movement, again, to reimagine what success looks like for our students, our schools, and our communities. That moonshot changes the experiences for students, putting them at the center as creators, problem solvers, citizens in the making. And that moonshot involves partnering with communities toward developing their portraits of a learner and their local accountability systems that really honors the innovative teaching and learning that ensures that all students are involved in their learning, and they have voice and advocacy in what they are doing. So these champions, as we move into the advocacy phase, are asked to collaborate with their communities and their stakeholders to help define what matters for them and what's measured. We ask the champions to help with the advocacy. Again, that's to talk with people who they're comfortable in their kind of circle of influence about that moonshot and about what's happening in our local districts and this movement toward a more vibrant learning experiences. We ask these champions to attend meetings such as local school board meetings, PTA meetings, maybe council meetings, to share their perspective on what is happening and within this movement, and to help inform through their different platforms, whether they have newsletters, just to be able to raise the awareness of this initiative, to share their stories about vibrant learning experiences, and maybe just host some conversations with their staff or board members so that they can make it personal and share those examples of the vibrant learning experiences and how it's grounded in the standards that leads toward those local accountability system. So that's the direction the Kentucky United We Learn Council is moving toward at this point. We have new leadership. Our longtime friend and colleague, Penny Christian, has exited our leadership. She served her term and is now being replaced with our chair, Jim Flynn. And Jim is from the Kentucky Association of School Superintendents. And Brandy Howard will then step into the vice chair role with the expectation then when Jim moves on that she'll move into the chair role as Jim did with Penny moving on from her chairmanship. So Brandy is a district assessment coordinator at Bullitt County and been a longtime advocate of their both Portrait of Learner and local accountability system. We met on June 20th of this year. The focus of the meeting was around those champions because it was the first time that they had been to an in-person meeting. We had opening remarks from the commissioner, and we reviewed Model Framework 4.0 and saw examples of vibrant learning experiences similar to what you saw here with Robert. And then we had some breakout groups so that the advocates or the champions could then be more informed and up to date on where we stand with all of these content areas. We shared out and shared reflections, and everyone left the afternoon with inspiration to go and really put these things in place. So again, just a brief highlight of 4.0. We've talked about, and you saw and had great discussion on 4.0. We changed the federal accountability to state accountability indicators that meets federal requirements. And then another change that was made was not to the framework itself, but actually to the technical document, where districts are encouraged to develop and administer their own competency-based or local measures of demonstration of performance in social studies and then writing once per grade span. Now, I'll note for you here that this first page did not change whatsoever. Still focused on vibrant learning experiences, developing those collaboration within our communities as well as across our communities, and developing those opportunities for our students to demonstrate those vibrant learning experiences, and then being supported through different types of networks in developing our local accountability systems. And this is where, again, the change was made. As you recall, the right-hand side of the graphic used to say the federal accountability, but now it says the state accountability that meets federal requirements. So those were the only changes. We'll note for you that the plan is that districts are engaged in developing their own local accountability systems as they have the capacity. Now, we talked about guardrails here, and guardrails in the fact that we have guidance and directions on how to or what to include or in their local accountability systems. And so the Office of Innovation over in the Continuous Improvement, the Office of Continuous Improvement are developing guidelines and supports, really like a guidebook that will be shared this fall with districts, so that there are some learnings from districts that have already developed their local accountability systems. So there's that is in development. The Kentucky United We Learn Council did get to see some snippets of that guidebook, because not every district is in the same place of developing local accountability systems. Some have more developed accountability systems, and others are just getting into the discussion at this point. So that phased in approach toward a local accountability system is important as people build the capacity toward engaging communities and having those conversations. It takes time, and it takes a lot of effort on the district's parts to open up the school and open up those conversations and invite people in on having those critical conversations to move the district forward toward continuous improvement and developing their local accountability systems. Now, I'd like to stop sharing and try to bring forward, because I think it's important just to have a visual of what a local accountability system could look like. So I'd like to show you two. So let me stop sharing, and I'm going to stop presenting. And attempt to share my screen because I'd like to show you two examples of local accountability. Okay. Janet Beth, can you see that?
It looks like there it is, Shelby County.
Yes, perfect. So this is a Shelby County's homepage. And at the top, you see, as mandated, that districts have to put their proficiency in reading and math. But, and they've done that, but I want to call your attention here to their community dashboard. Now, Robert Meacham gave you some examples of vibrant learning experiences that Shelby County has. They have defenses of learning, and they've been at that for a while. But they also have this community dashboard. So if you click this community dashboard, what you'll see is their local accountability system and the display that they have. So if you scroll down here, you can see that they have some pillars that they have aligned their local accountability system to. And if you click these, you will see their demonstrations of learning. You will see information about their local accountability system. And Shelby County's community said they would like to have more stories about what's happening. So they wanted to have more narrative approach to their local accountability system. So when you dig into these, you can see the stories that they provide their students. Now, I want to show you then in a different one in Fleming County. Oops. Let's see. Fleming County has, again, at the top of their website, again, state mandated proficiency in reading and math. But if you move down here, you can see that they have measures of quality. And if you click that, it takes you to their model for their local accountability system. And theirs are based on, again, 3 pillars. And then from these pillars, you can see a dashboard. And that dashboard, if you click I'm just going to click the Vibrant Learning Experiences just to give you a flavor of how theirs looks a bit different from Shelby County's. So Fleming County's local accountability system is displayed with data. It's got graphs. It's got graphics. You see the stars. And so you can see that their community wanted it a little bit different than Shelby County's. So I'm going to stop sharing here and then ask Ben or Melissa to bring up the PowerPoint. So I share those with you to just give you a couple of examples of developed dashboards that their local communities have indicated that they are interested in, and the approach as well as the indicators. So there are other examples that could be brought forward, but those are the two that are distinctively different in their approach to their displays. And I see that Melissa and Ben have gotten back up the PowerPoint presentation. And so, as we've mentioned, there is a time frame. You can see here that we are in the advocacy phase, summer 2025, where we are engaging, again, lots of people, bringing in champions for the work and really taking this momentum that we have on this new type of reimagined system forward. So again, we have the goal is to have legislation for consideration in the 2026 legislative session. So let me turn it over to Shara, who's going to bring some important dates and timelines. And then Shara, I'll close out this session with updates around the college readiness exam. So I'll turn it over to Shara.
Thank you, Jennifer, and thank you for the introduction. I'm honored to assume the role of director and grateful for the opportunity to serve Kentucky school districts. And as always, I remain committed to delivering exceptional customer service to their districts. So let's get into those important dates and timelines that I'm going to share with you. We have updated the administration code regulation training. The regulation itself was updated 703 KAR 5080. It was amended through the legislative process in December 24. Our office will be releasing the updated trainings on Friday, August the 1st. The bullet points that you see on the slide are just a few of the updated changes. So that's just a few highlights for you. If you've not seen those changes before, we have also worked to refresh the inclusions of special populations training. The special populations training, the regulation has not changed. So 703 KAR 5070 has not changed. However, we revamped these trainings to align with the overall layout of the administration code training. So therefore, both the administration code regulation training and the inclusion of special populations training will be released on Friday, August the 1st. And then, so as we are looking ahead, this year's assessment reporting, I have here the 2025 tentative reporting timeline. So I say tentative because it could change based on different factors. We begin with the student data being released on August the 4th, where both KSA and AKSA data will be available in Pearson Access Next, or PAN, as you heard us refer to, for the districts. Science scores will not be included in this data as the standard setting for science has not yet occurred. The science standard setting will be held in September. Following that, we move into the fall quality control data review, which runs from August 13th to the 21st for new tickets, and August 22nd for ticket resolution. During this window, districts assessment coordinators, or DACs, will review student participation, demographic details, and accountability data. Then on October the 23rd, we will have our quality control day, when DACs will get a look at their first look at the accountability results. This is a critical opportunity to identify any potential systematic issues before the data is finalized. The embargo release of the data to districts will occur mid to late November, which means the DACs will which means SCAAC and selected staff will have access to the data before it becomes public. And additionally, in mid to late November, we move to public reporting, and the data will be available publicly. Finally, immediately following that public release, we will enter into the 10-day regulatory data review period. And that is the final opportunity for DACs to submit new tickets. This timeline ensures that multiple checkpoints for the data accuracy and transparency will be with clear roles for the districts through this process. So I hope that this timeline gives you some dates so you can start planning, but remember that it is tentative still at this point. So at this point, I will stop and I will turn it back over to Jennifer to close us out and address any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Shara. And just wanted to share with you an announcement around the college admissions exam. As I noted back at one of our last meetings, that the request for proposal for the college admissions exam was out. It was released. The Kentucky Department of Education has to follow what's called the Kentucky Model Procurement Code. It is KRS Chapter 45A. And that law governs how state agencies purchase goods and services. That does include large-scale assessment contracts, such as the statewide assessments. The process is designed for fairness, transparency, and also competition between vendors. So the contract that we had for the college admissions exam through the ACT was at its end. So we had to put it out for a request for proposal. So that request for proposal, the process is a state agency, the department here, we created a request for proposals, and that outlines our expectations or our requirements for the different types of assessments, this one being the college admissions exam. So we put that request for proposal out, and vendors then respond back with their proposal. And those proposals are evaluated on multiple factors, including technical quality as well as cost. And whether or not that their proposal, what the product that the vendor has, meets the requirements for what the department is expected to produce and to offer our students. So with that, we have received a signed contract with the College Board. And so the College Board was the winning vendor for the college admissions exam. So on June 30th, we announced that the College Board was the recipient of that award of that contract. And that the College Board, that contract includes the SAT for the statewide administration of the college admissions exam for our junior administration. KRS 158-6455 mandates that we have a college admissions exam that's given statewide to our grade 11 students, our juniors. So the SAT College Board won that contract, and the SAT was then announced as the upcoming college admissions exam for our juniors. So our rising seniors our rising seniors, the class of 2026, they took the ACT. Our rising juniors, so the class of 2027, is impacted by this contract and this decision. Since that announcement on June 30, we have had a protest to the award of that contract. And so at this point, all the contract has been paused, as well as any work toward that contract. So that is delaying any type of information that we were hoping to provide and any details. So the Kentucky Department of Education is committed to meeting every deadline and providing a college admissions exam to the students in Kentucky and supporting them toward their goals once they leave high school, whether it's college or career. And so the Department of Education, we will meet every deadline. We will adhere to this protest against the award of the contract with the College Board, and then adhere to the results of that protest. The protest is part of the Model Procurement Code. It's a fairly normal process that all vendors are have the right to protest an award. So we're going to follow that Model Procurement Code, and we'll provide you updates as they become available, and any guidance that we can provide to help districts and stakeholders understand where we are in the current situation and what it means for our schools as students.
Jennifer, do you have any idea how long it will take you to go through the protest process?
So yeah, that's a good question, Jana Beth, and one I've asked as well. It could take anywhere from 1 to 2 months. And so the protest is with the Finance and Administration Cabinet. So they are the ones that we work with, the department works with, when going through a bid process. They facilitate it, they guide the process, they guide the communication between the vendor and the department. So there are steps and there are guidelines that must be followed, and we follow those as the cabinet provided. And so the protest goes to the Secretary of the Finance Administration Cabinet. So we'll continue to work with them along this process and do so diligently and meet every deadline and every timeline, because we understand how critical it is to offer that guidance to schools, to our parents, to students who are entering their junior year, and so they can make decisions and be prepared for when the time comes.
I think I just want to say, for anybody listening, Jennifer and I have talked about this. We have students who are in high school, and at the end of the day, the students who are most urgent in terms of making sure they have a good college readiness score are the seniors, and they're the class of 2026, and those students were given the ACT, and they should continue on that path if they want to retake it or do anything like that at their own cost. And as a reminder, students can qualify for financial aid for these assessments. They should go talk to their guidance counselor, whoever is in charge of college and career ready counseling at their school. But really, right now in the fall, the most critical case is ensuring that the seniors, our graduating class of 2026, feel good about their college entrance score for KEYS money, for college scholarships, for college entrance. And so I hope the 2 months, though it's a little frustrating out in the field, it's not that long to get it right. And we appreciate that there's a process. So when there is a question, there's also a formal way to review it. So thank you for that update. And I think this helped to know that at the end of the day, your all's office has to stop until you get direction from the finance group as to what to do.
Thank you, Janabeth. That's exactly right.
Other questions for Jennifer on anything that she or Shara spoke about? If you didn't catch it, the big news Shara was sharing is that the public accountability is delayed. And so, you know, we're used to seeing that come out around the 1st of October, middle of October. And so it's going to be pushed back a little bit. But I think the end result is going to be great. The redesign of the science assessment was something a lot of people wanted. And so it's worth the wait.
That's right. As Shara mentioned, that we do have, because of the new science assessment, we have to go through the process of bringing in teachers, looking at the results and setting those student performance levels. So we want those content area experts in science to provide feedback, and those teachers are a critical part of the process, and they're coming in September. So we'll have that activity that is critical, but will delay the public release of accountability. Now, she did note in here on the screen, schools and districts will get individual student data on reading, math, social studies, and writing, including on-demand and editing mechanics, the 1st of August. So they can make some curricular decisions, they can make plans for the upcoming school year based on those individual student data. So that's where the critical need is in preparation for the school year. Accountability data is more of a school level, programmatic level that can come later.
And KDE and several DACs have a lot of tools for schools and districts to use to support that August 4th look at the assessment student data release and how you actually use that in your schools. So it has been for several years now, KDE has ensured that we get our individual student results in enough time to actually use that information as they come back to the school. Any other questions for Jennifer or Shara? Alan.
Yes, I was wanting to know a little bit more about a hint or a preview or just a synopsis of what it means to bring the 4.0 to the legislative process in 2026, which is 6 months away.
Yeah. Thank you, Alan. So we've began in early June. The interim joint committee on education had their first meeting was in June, and that's when during the interim session, during the times between the general sessions, the two education committees, the Senate Education Committee and the House Education Committee, they come together for a joint meeting. So it's the interim joint committee, education committee. So Dr. Fletcher mentioned earlier that in his opening remarks that myself, Commissioner Fletcher, Dr. Brian Kreisman from Fleming County, as well as Dr. Jesse Bacon from Bullitt County, presented to the Interim Joint Committee on Education, where we had a really good discussion with legislators, giving them the perspective of what 4.0, what this reimagined assessment system or accountability system could look like, and the benefits of it. The two district leaders, the two superintendents, were able to bring their perspective from working with their communities and the value it brings. So the advocacy that those communications have begun, in that regard around 4.0. In addition, Commissioner mentioned that he is having individual discussions with legislators along with our liaison to the General Assembly, Dr. Brian Perry. And so they're having those. And then I mentioned the work around the champions that are spreading the word around this movement that we are in around bringing forward this this new type of student center engaged system. So lots of critical work is happening right now across the Commonwealth. I think, Alan, you have it. Did you raise your hand again?
Yeah, it's kind of a follow-up. It just,
Okay.
but in January, when the legislature kicks off, the end goal is what? Legislative language that will give permission to or guidance with what I know we don't necessarily know exactly what it is, but I understand let's put it, the influence campaign
Sure.
that is happening in the relationships right
Yep.
now. But kind of what is
Sure, you
I'm
want
just
the
trying to
nuts
get in
and
my
bolts.
head, what is the goal?
That's right. You want the nuts and bolts of it, right? So that's so now that we have an approved 4.0, we've got internal staff that are working on amendment language to the statutes that are impacted by the proposal. So now that the board, the Kentucky United We Learn Council, you all, the local superintendent advisory council has approved that. The work is now within the advocacy phase, but also the work is happening to update or provide drafts of what statutory language could look like or could be toward developing those components within Framework 4.0.
Thank you.
And then, so we will have draft language, and then the General Assembly, they have staffers that may propose their own types of language or amendments.
Any other questions for Jennifer or Shara? Thank you as always, Jennifer, and congratulations. You're 15 days into your new job. And we're excited to have you leading it. And Shara, I haven't gotten a chance to say officially, but thank you. We're excited for you in your new position as well. I'm going to end with some upcoming SCAAC meeting dates, September 16th and November 18th. Please make sure you put those on your calendar. And then at this time, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Chuck Fletcher, make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you. And I think there's somebody ready to make a
Alan
second.
Young, second.
Thank you. All in favor, raise your hand and wave goodbye. Thank you to everyone for coming on and being a part of SCAAC.